Hey guys, Monique Leslie, Misfit Crafter here, bringing you the Book Cover Ultimate Guide tool. Just a little update on instructions. Not a whole lot of difference, but just wanted to show you it with the fresh colors, things like that. And as always, you can come back and refer to this video. If you're unfamiliar with the Book Cover Ultimate Guide tool, it is a 5-in-1 tool for helping you make book covers. I'm going to show you how it works. And when you receive the book cover tool, you receive your tool, and then you're going to get this little guide that gives you a little scan bar to get back to this video again. And it's going to, on the inside, have instructions written out for you to use the tool, as well as full pictures and everything on how to do step by step on each thing, and this information about each one of the properties of the tool. So we're going to go ahead and get started by showing you how the tool works. I also just want to show you a few updated colors. This is the original color. The other color is actually just opposite, so teal on top, pink on the bottom, just how these have like reverse. These are our lavender blacks. Or black lavender, depending on what it is. And then we always have new colors coming out, so you won't see them all here, but there's always going to be new colors and updates and upgrades to the tool as well. But today we're going to go ahead and just use this one. And I'm going to show you how to make a book cover using the tool and what all the components and everything are. So the first thing you got to do, and the only part that you really have to measure, and that's the best part about this tool, is the only thing you really have to measure is your chipboard. You need to know what size of chipboard you're going to want to use, or what size book that you actually want. And it's good for all sizes. Anything from an itty bitty book like this to a much larger book like this. So you can make all kinds of different spine sizes, all kinds of different book sizes. It can even go larger if you wanted to make a whole large 8.5 by 11. You're really not limited. But for today's purposes, we're going to make a smaller one just so it fits on the screen a lot easier. So what I'm going to do is actually use it 5.5 inches high, just so we can get it all to fit in here. I'm going to give us a 1.5 inch spine, just like that, and then that's going to leave us a little 7, so we're going to do a 3.5 inch cover. So 3.5 by 5.5, just to give us everything to fit on the screen nicely, and I'm going to give us just a cute little book. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put that aside. Now, that's pretty much the only thing you have to measure. Everything else you can pretty much either eyeball or just play simple when you're going to be putting your paper together to cover the book itself. So the only thing you need to have is just some sort of cardstock or paper that you actually want to cover the book with. I'm just going to use a 12 by 12 sheet of paper. If your paper seems like it's not big enough, you basically can just overlap 2 pieces of paper together to make a longer paper. But really all you need to do to use the tool is just eyeball to make sure that it looks like you have about a 1-inch border around at the very least, and this tool is going to help you make sure that you have that 1-inch border. But right away, just eyeball to see if you have at least about what looks like 1 inch on either side. But we're going to use this tool to make sure that everything measures up perfectly on all sides. So what you do with the tool, and it doesn't matter what side you put it on, but you line it up with the edge of the tool with the edge of the paper. And it can be on this side, it can be on this side, it can be down at the bottom, it can be wherever you want. Now, the tool has 2 sides. It has an A side for 3mm chipboard or under, and a B side for 5mm chipboard or under. The way that you know what side that you need to use is really easy. If your chipboard can slide under here, you're going to be using the A side. If it gets stuck and bumps the edge here, then we're going to flip it over to the other side. But at the very, very first step that we're going to do now, you're always going to start on the A side. And then I'll explain when you flip over to the B side and what type of thing that would possibly warrant going on the B side. But for right now, we're just going to start off by just lining up our chipboard. So all you need to do is, like I said, line up the 2 edges of your tool with the 2 edges of your paper or cardstock, whatever you want to cover your book cover with. Once you do that, all you need to do is have your glue or your tape ready so that you're able to go ahead and glue down your chipboard. I'm just making sure my glue is going to flow for me nicely. And all I'm doing is adding the glue straight to my chipboard. I don't have to really measure anything or do anything like that. And usually I use more, but for demonstration purposes. And I'm just holding this down. I can hold it like this, however you want. And you're just going to slide your chipboard right under, and this is going to line it up. And what this is going to do is this right here, from here to here, and from here to here is 1 inch. So that's giving us our inch border on both sides of our chipboard. And then I can just use the tool to help smooth this out. And I usually just flip it over on both sides and smooth out my chipboard nice and easily. Once you place this nothing to go from here. It goes really, really, really quickly after this. So I'm gonna just loosen up my glue again, and I'm gonna have that ready. So the next thing I want to do is space this to this and still make sure that it's going to be straight on both sides. And that is where our spine gap tool comes into play. And this is when we are concerned about whether we're using A or B side. So again, if it slides under here, we're going to use the A side. But if you have something that's much thicker, like say like a board like this, where it feels like it's getting stuck, or like, see how it's like, it's hitting it, so it can't go underneath. Then I'm going to flip it over and use the B side. And what that does is give us a larger gap. And that's important because if you have two pieces that are really thick and they're trying to close and you don't have enough of a gap, they're going to hit each other and get stuck. So you're going to end up not being able to close your book correctly. So that would be really the only time that you would have to flip it over to the other side. But for the most part, you're usually going to be using the A side. Now I'm just turning it sideways like this. All you do is extend this out. You can extend it out as far as you want just to have it feel stable. And you're just going to line up the tool to the edge of your chipboard. And right here, there's a little bit of a lip. As you can see, there's like this little lip right in here. And there's two sizes. So I'm just lining it up with the edge of the tool right here on the side. And then if you see these little holes, you see how I can kind of see through that right there? What that does is it allows me that when I'm over it, I can make sure that this is lined up against that. So all I have to do is just kind of look in there and then just make sure it's lined up right here. And right before I do that, just add my glue. So we're going to go ahead and add our glue on here. And what you do is just hold this to make sure you can squeeze this tight. Not too tight, but you can hold this tight just to make sure that this isn't moving on you. Make sure that it's lined up against the edge here. And then make sure it's lined up against the edge here. And then just pull this away and it's going to give you a perfect gap. And it's going to line up nice and straight right here. So then I'm just going to close this back up. I'll put my glue to the side for a second. I'm going to go to the other side. I'm just going to smooth out my glue again. And I'm just using the edge of the tool to help smooth it out. So it kind of doubles up, kind of like a squeegee or a scraper, just to help do it. And then we're just going to repeat the process with the last piece. So all we got to do is add our glue. I'm going to loosen up my glue again. It's a little warm today, so my glue keeps drying a little quickly. So I'm just loosening up my glue so I can get that out of there nicely. And you're just adding your glue. Now I usually recommend getting a good amount of glue through the whole back and then just kind of smoothing it out with the spatula if you have one, but mine is drying so fast I kind of got to move quickly. So I can just hold this again in place like that, slide that right there. Make sure it's lined up against the edge of the tool. I push the tool in just a little bit to make sure that it's lining up this. Push this against that way. Like I said, you can look right in here to make sure that it's actually lined up with the edge of the tool right in here. This little lip part like that. Pretty easy though. It's not like you're going to be missing it very often or anything like that, if at all. All right. So now we have all of our book pieces down. And now what we want to do is just trim off the excess. And that's where the tool comes in after that as well, where we're going to start using the edge again. So we've already used the edge to line it up. So that's number one. We've used this gap tool, number two. And now we're going to use the spacer, the 1-inch spacer now, to finish off the rest of the 1-inch spacing. Now, I recommend marking it and then cutting your edge. I don't recommend, it's possible. You can also just get an X-Acto knife and right away cut it down the side. You just want to be careful to make sure that you're not cutting into the side of your tool itself. So I usually just mark it and make sure that I have at least about 1 inch down. Kind of guesstimate from there, which is pretty easy. And you can use it this way, or you can flip it this way. We're basically just trying to cross over both edges like that so we can make sure that we can mark off our 1-inch border. I'm just going to go over to this side. Like I said, you can use it on either side. It really doesn't matter. It's a 1 inch no matter what. Move that just a little this way. So I can make sure I can mark off my 1-inch edge. I missed that just a little. There we go. All right, and then once you have your 1-inch edge, you can either go in and cut it off on your paper cutter, or you can just grab a pair of scissors and just trim that away. I usually just grab the scissors, just a lot faster for me. And the next step, you can either do before you cut off the paper or after you cut off the paper. It's up to you. But now what we want to do is trim off the corner so we get a nice tight corner folded over. So we want to be able to miter our corners, this little miter tool, miters off our corners so that we get a nice clean finished edge. The issue you end up having is if you don't have a nice mitered edge, you'll get like a really bulky fold over, or you'll be short. You won't have enough on the edges. And as you can see, there's a little bit of a gap from here to here. And what this tool does is give you that perfect gap. And again, you'll use the A side of the mitered edge if everything fits under here. If it doesn't, you're going to go to the B side mitered edge, and then you would put it on this way. So say, for instance, we were using something like thick like this, we would go to the B side instead, and it would mark it off further. So if I'm using this, you can see it's going to give us a much bigger edge. And basically it's because our materials need to be able to fold over this. You can see how they did it on the actual canvas itself. So we want to make sure that we have enough of an edge to fold over. This also applies if you, for instance, have a thin board like this, and maybe you want to use a thicker fabric or like a faux leather, or you want to add batting or padding to the in between your fabric and your board, then you also need more to be able to fold over. Then you can use the B side to trim your edge instead. But we're going to use A side, and that's probably your most common one that most people do use. We're just going to go ahead and trim off those corners. Nice and easy. You can already see we're almost done. Most of the time it's just me explaining. It's really not complicated. It's pretty simple. So once you've done that, all you have left to do now is to pull up your edges to fold over. And what I like to do is use the edge of the tool. This is just like a happy accident extra thing. So we've already had the one side that lines up our first piece, that's 1. We had the spacing gap 2, that's 2. And then we had 3, which is our 1-inch border to do everything. 4 is this little edge here. Then we also have our little bonus of being able to use it as kind of like a bone folder, edger kind of a thing. And what I always do is first just fold it straight up. This helps prevent cracking of your paper if you just kind of ease it up at first instead of right away just trying to fold it over. And I'm just like rubbing it back and forth just to help it. And then what I'm going to do is slowly just rub it down from here, and I can use this now just to fold it down like a bone folder. And that was a happy accident that we found while using it, that hey, like we can just use it as a bone folder if we want to as well. Gives us nice crisp edges while still giving us a nice crisp edge here as well. So we're just going to keep folding that over, increasing it down. You can just use the tool. So once you have everything folded down, you can go ahead and start your gluing. Doesn't really matter which one you do first. You can glue or tape down these edges. I'll put that down. I'm going to use my tool to help smooth that out. And if you get glue on the tool, I just usually wipe it off with a little Clorox wipe or something. It won't damage the tool or anything. It comes right up. One thing I always do is I do these even. So if I'm going to do the short side first, I do the other short side, and then the long sides. I don't go like 1, 2, 3, 4. I like it just a little bit even. And that just smooths it out. I check for glue. Now, no matter what version of the tool, this is still the basics of how you use this tool. There was an original version that was slightly different from this, just the decals. The decals didn't exist before, and now they do. Now, one of the things you want to do now is just make sure that these edges right here are kind of pushed down, and you can actually use the tool itself if you want to. This is like one of those extra bonuses again. You can actually use this part of the tool and just push it down to make sure that that glue is meeting that other edge. It just happens to be the perfect size. Like I said, that was just a happy bonus that happened. If you don't want to do that, you can always use a bone folder. I like using this one on the other side. And just get in there with your bone folder to push it down. Either way. And that'll give you a little better fold when you're done folding it. And so now you have a nice perfectly folded edge and everything, and that was super quick and easy. Now the last thing we have are these little holes. You're probably wondering like, hey, what the heck are the holes for? I'm gonna show you what the holes are for. So what this does is you just put this along your corners right here, and then you can get your awl or whatever you have to be able to poke holes to where either you can mark it or you can poke your holes right away to be able to add a band for binding your book. So I'm going to show you one way that you can do it. And it just depends on how far in you want it to go. I think I'm going to use a third one. So I can just like put this here. And usually what I like to do is mark it rather than poke the hole right away. So I'm just going to mark my little hole there. I'm I'm going to go over here and just mark my little hole there. So I know where I want my holes to go, right? So you can do one of two things. You can either use an awl or something and just poke through right there. And you have a spot where you can pull string through or whatever. But what I usually like to do for mine is to just use my punch tool. I'll show you. So I use my common punch tool and a couple of little eyelets. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and poke my holes with this instead. And now I have them lined up nicely. So all I have to do is center it on the top. You can see right there. And poke my hole right through there. So you can go ahead and poke your holes right in there, and then you can just go ahead and set your eyelets with whatever eyelet tool you have, however you want. That's the easy part. So I just set my eyelets in there, right? And then what I do is I get myself some elastic cording or ribbon, whichever way you want to do it. I usually measure it to size, just about the same length of the holes and just maybe like half an inch more. And then I go ahead and cut that. What I do is I take this and I just pop these through here, and you can do them any way you want. And then I just get these two pieces together with the elastic, and I kind of got to pull it at the same time to make it a little tight. And then I pull the elastic through. There. I pull the elastic through the hole like that. And I go ahead and let it tighten up like that. And you can put this on the inside or the outside, whichever you want. And what that does is allow you to create a closure like that for your book. So you end up with a nice elastic band to close your book. And then you can just do your usual filling in however you want. And that's it. So that is how nice and simple the book cover ultimate guide tool works. Not a lot of complication. I will say keep looking out for improvements. We are working on a few things to improve the tool and to add more features to the tool. So always be on the lookout for that. Right now we are on March 8th of 2024. So this, like I said, is one of the newest colors. Now, if it gets sold out, don't worry. Go ahead and pre-order it by just paying for the item on the website. And right here is MisfitCrafterStudio.com or MisfitCrafterMenagerie.com. And then if you do the pre-order, you'll be first in line to get your pick. If we ever have another color in stock, we may also offer you like, hey, do you want to get this color instead? But it's totally up to you. So hopefully you like that presentation. And if you have any questions, always feel free to message us in the contacts or on any social media. It's at Misfit Crafter or at MisfitCrafterMenagerie.com or at Misfit Crafter Studio on all social medias. And we will get back to you. Thanks for watching. Bye.